This is a slide-out shelving unit I built recently that turned out so well, I thought I would make a video about building it. Alright, so we start here, of course, with the drawing. I think I have a hard time getting out of bed without making a drawing first, but here's my preliminary drawing of the slide-out shelving unit. So basically it'll be a 6 foot tall by 4 foot wide and just slide in to this area right here. So let's just take a look at the shelving unit first, and we'll come back to building all those other things. So yeah, there it is. So the big thing about this, I'm going to use 3/4 inch plywood. I'm going to double up the top and the bottom, which I normally wouldn't do with the shelving unit, but because just to reinforce it, I'm using 2 pieces of plywood in the top and the bottom. And then you'll have like an interior divider here. So let's talk about making efficient use of your plywood. So here is a 4x8 sheet. And the trick with this, when you're doing anything, if you want to be efficient with it, you just sort of use units that sort of divide evenly into the 4 to 8 inches or 4 feet. So this one, I'm going to make this 6 foot by 4 foot with 12 inches deep, or 1 foot deep. So my first cut will be right here. This is 2 feet. So that gets me 6 feet down here, 2 feet here, and I'll come back here, cut here. So these will be my top and my bottoms. So these are each 12 inches wide. And then I'll start cutting my sides all at 12 inches. And just because whenever you cut, each time you cut, you lose about 1/8 of an inch, just that's the thickness of the blade. So these will eventually be 11.5 inches, just to account for my losses there. So that takes care of my top, my bottom, and then here's one side, another side. This is that sort of piece in the middle, and this I can cut up to add extra reinforcement in the top and the bottom. And I'll have to do another unit, find some other plywood to make my shelves out of. But those don't need to be 3/4 inch. It's just the frame I need to have 3/4 inch. And this backing here will be a 1/4 inch plywood. So all right, here's the carcass partially assembled. So to put together, I just used a couple of few brad nails. I don't know if you can see those there. And then I went ahead and put these brackets in the corners. Typically here, I would have done a little rabbet, but because I want to stiffen up the frame a little bit, I just double stacked this plywood. I'll put a face frame over this. Here I flipped the shelving unit over and installing the back. The back is 1/4 inch plywood, and I found it easier to attach 2 sides of the full sheet and then just cut off the excess in place. To attach it to the unit, I used wafer head screws. So there's the case right now. I've got the face frame on. I've got stained. Got my shelf holders, or shelf supports. So I'm just waiting for that to dry. Meantime, I'm going to make I'm going to call it the cradle for this one. So I've mounted one of these slides, nice piece of 2x6, and these will be tilted up like so. And then yeah, I'll put these slides on there. Getting the horizontal spacer block length right is really important to avoid stress on the slides. So make sure to take a look at your slide specification. Here are mine. 19.5 millimeters is just over 3/4 of an inch. So I've made my spacer blocks the width of the shelving unit plus 1.5 inches, just to account for both the slides. All right, here's a cradle. So I've got my slides mounted in. So now I'm just going to wait for the case to dry, bookcase or utility shelf to dry, and I can mount it. Mounting was a bit of an awkward dance. Heavy-duty drawer slides don't separate like the lighter variants do, so you have to fasten everything together in place. That's why I haven't bolted the cradle to the deck yet here. Otherwise, if it's already up against the wall, I wouldn't be able to attach the left side to the shelving unit. I used some scrap 2x4s to create a couple of stands to hold the shelving unit level while I was fastening the slides to it. So the slides come with these chinchy little screws, so I substituted them for some 1.5-inch structural screws, typically used for mounting joist hangers. Alright, the compartment for the utility shelf is framed. You see I used 2x4s. I just put them on their sides just to give me a little extra clearance. They're not structural, so I just mainly need good attachment points for the siding I'm going to use. And then I made a little shed roof. I think it's like 24 inches, has about 8-10 inches of overhang. Just give a little protection for elements, because still it's underneath the existing roof, but just give a little extra protection. Alright, it's almost wrapped up with the slide out utility shelf. I've got stained. Last thing I need to do is put a little bit of roofing up there. Otherwise, yeah, it's turned out really good. I'm going to put a handle, I think, over here. It's really hard to get out if you get it all the way in there. Alright, here's a completed cabinet. So I got my little roof installed there. Got my handle. And I started throwing some things in there.